Hey, we love that umbrella guy. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm calling from Los Angeles, and I'm having a little problem under the name ThatUmbrellaGuy. I sent him my phone number at least 20 times in the chat and told him to call me. He ignored me, or I'm a man. I filed the report. If you guys could take a look at it and give me a call back, I would love to hear what you guys can do to help us. We really need to kind of stop this guy at least until Monday. I told him to call me, or I'm a man.
The grill and the ghost, coast to coast. Who's that face that's feeling you miss the most? It's that umbrella guy straight from the hat rack. Godzilla with cleats with the bass dropping impact. Cranking up the stylings in the syllable blender. Body bag, toe tag, return you to sender. Post that umbrella guy, your lyrical confessor. E-strap, flipped up, fully automatic microphone suppressor. Army of one, rolling through your filings. Pound for pound, unleash your rounds. See what buys are just my silence. Ghost riding the whip, the masked up live ender. Busting up your threats and returning them to sender. Step into me, you better bring your nation as I wreck you to the population. It's that umbrella guy on the verbal flamethrower. Notching up the belt, not just some lame shower. Cranking up a stream just to show what's beneath. I'm masked up, baby, but I'm still sporting teeth. With one bling to rule them all and one bling to blind them. Iced out, grilled up, hunting no one will find them. The E-homes are always flammable and will ignite you. Calling out the games you play just to spite you. I'm still standing. I'm still standing.
All right, what's up? I am still standing. Actually, I'm sitting down, but I'm still standing. That's so dumb. Oh, dad jokes you not. My daughters really got into the roasting thing today. My littlest one came up to me and said, "Dad, for Father's Day, I'm gonna paint your nails." And I was like, "Oh, you're gonna paint my nails?" She said, "Yeah, I'm gonna paint your nails black." And I was like, "Really? Why?" And she said, "Sissy says that that black is slimming, and you need a lot more of it." I was like, "Damn, that is savage." Ugh. I asked my oldest daughter, I was like, "Did you set that up?" And she was like, "Oh my God." Oh, it's so funny. Oh, I love it. I love it. I want her to be able to like roast anybody that she comes across. You know, we have little roast-a-thons, like I'll mess with her. You know, and she'll fire back. That's a good one. I was like, damn, that one was pretty savage. Between that one and over a few days, I had some really funny ones. My littlest daughter, anytime she's losing at a game, you know, like a video game, she'll yell, but my controller's lagging," but my controller's lagging. So this weekend I had to explain to her that only works for video games because we pulled out a board game and she was losing and she was like, but my controller's lagging. I was like, you don't have a controller and board games can't lag. You know, and she'll say, my game's lagging. You know, my controller's lagging. I was like, holy crap, it's DSP. One time she had a game lag, and I let her do it over because, you know, she was fighting with her sister, and her sister was like, yeah, that's fine. They were playing, and she won. And since then, anytime she comes across something and she starts to lose, her controller or her game is lagging. I love it. It's funny. But it was funny to be like, you know, the board game doesn't lag, right, baby? Oh, my God. I hope you folks are doing great today, by the way. AJ Stone, I saw that come in right off the go. Thank you, AJ. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. That was cool of you. Thanks for the 10 gifted memberships. And also, Fallen Hero, man. Thank you for a gifted membership as well. Man, thank you all. What a start today. Thank you. Nathan, thanks for the 5 months there. Hey there, Tug. Great coverage as always. Good Logic is less than 1,400 subs from 100K. Please consider subbing to him, folks. Yes, actually, Good Logic. One of the things I've quit talking about right now. There's no reason to talk about Nick Rekieta thing, but I want to bring up Good Logic in it. Okay, that guy. He's the kind of friend I would want if I ever had a problem. Because that guy went out of his way. He was invested. He was very invested in making sure that a friend of his did not fall under the waves. You know, again, a lot of people were like, oh my God, throw this person away. And Good Logic was like, fuck no. And, you know, what people saw, I mean, he broke up emotionally on stream. And people were like, that's fake. No, I saw what he was doing behind everything. He was very invested in you know, not excusing a friend or enabling them, but making sure that they had support. You know, it was very good to watch, especially in the law circles. The law circles are so nasty. Sometimes they're not, but a lot of times they are. A lot of times they're very mean. So I thought that was actually very great. So anyway, if you haven't checked out Good Logic, I like Good Logic quite a bit. I stream a little bit before here and there, but I never, you know, we've not really hung out as much or anything like that. But what I saw there, man, that's the kind of person you want in your corner for sure. Because you know, again, it wasn't enabling; it was just trying to help out and trying to make sure somebody had supports. Man, proud of that. Have you all, before we hit the Laura Owens stuff, have you all kept up with this stuff happening with the Young Thug trial with the judge and corruption? I mean, this shit is crazy. It is crazy. I mean, there's stuff like, tell me, first of all, we talked a lot about, we talked in the Laura Owens trial about sending signals, right? So you just tell me, this was brought up today, first of all, this is, watch the judge here and watch the attorney here. And you tell me, first of all, before anything happens, if this isn't the signaling, what is this? Okay, just watch this. Let me mute the sound. The sound doesn't matter, by the way. Just watch, like I said. Judge there. Look at him staring, playing with ear, her. I mean, look at this. Like, that does not look normal, does it? That looks like signaling. The judge is looking straight at her, but then he does the look, but then oh yeah, I'm not looking at you. I'm looking away. I mean, that really looks like signaling to me there. You know, if that's not, that's one hell of a weird, especially considering some of the other stuff. So that's just one element to this, okay? I want to play you something that's 9 minutes long, but it's damn well worth it. Because what happens here is a judge decided to meet with a potential witness and prosecution without the defense lawyer present and made statements there. So the lawyer calls this out, ended up with a transcript of it. And the judge wanted to know where it came from. And the lawyer's like, fuck no, I'm not going to tell you. So what did he do? Held him in contempt, had him arrested, and is making him serve 10 weekends in jail unless he turns over who did this. He was going to have him serve this time, by the way, in Fulton County at first, in one of the most troubled institutions. It would have been pretty much a death sentence for him unless he had some protection there. But then they allowed the switch off. But, I mean, it was pretty nasty stuff. So I want to show you this. This is a while, because you talk about, this is as far from justice as you can get. Like I said, this is 9 minutes, but it is damn well worth watching. This trial is just a colossal oddity. Yeah, I've got the paperwork. Georgia Supreme Court issued the bond today. Yeah, I've got more of the stuff pulled up for it too. So I appreciate that. Yeah, they have, I mean, you had the filing with the court, then you had the Supreme Court. I mean, this is so wild. So anyway, just listen to this exchange here. Because this right here, the judge should have been disqualified from this case after this. There is no way in hell this judge should have continued.
Hey, Mr. Steele, would you take the podium, please, sir? All right.
So I'm just going to play it in its entirety so you see
right.
9 minutes of this part.
Mr. Steele, before I recessed, I asked you, how did you get this information?
Oh, wait, I got that.
And it is not covered.
This is the first, right, this isn't the first part. Shit. Give me 1 second. Sorry. I got them out of order. Give me 1 minute. That's the other hearing. This, I mean, like I said, this whole thing is crazy. I pulled these up real quick. My computer restarted. You ever, by the way, pull up a bunch of stuff and then have your computer restart on you? I was like, no, you know. Lawyer, 1 minute. Gotta find that video again. I couldn't believe, okay, here it is. This one's 3 minutes. So, 1 second. My bad, though. I had the other one pulled up, and then I had to restart. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, so give me a second. I got this right now. I want you to see this in context. It's very well worth watching, though. So check this out here.
Note that for purposes of record. Well, I'm going forward. What I was told was that Mr. Copeland said,
And you haven't answered my question yet.
I'm not going to answer that question.
You're not?
No, I will not answer that question.
Why will you not answer that question?
Because I want to make sure that what I say is accurate, and I'm not trying to get anybody else.
I'm asking you, how did you get this information?
I'm not telling the court. What I'm saying is based upon information.
Okay, well, listen, if you don't tell me how you got this information, then you and I are going to have some problems.
We can have this. I have problems right now.
Okay, I know. Look, I don't want to know about your problems. Okay, at this point in time, all I'm asking you at this point in time is, how did you come upon this information? Look, if the case gets reviewed, the record's going to be available for our appellate court and for whatever reason. But it's disturbing that how somehow you have surreptitiously gotten information in regards to the court's private ex parte conversations with a party. I mean,
a witness who was sworn in Friday The court's telling, this is what I was told. If this is not true, not true. This court
Mr. Steele,
handed
ask
Mr.
me,
Copeland.
tell me how you
perjury.
got the information.
Listen, whatever you want to do.
Tell me how you got the information, then we can go ahead and go forward.
I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to say is this. I was told, and I hope this concerns the court.
It concerns me that you have proprietary information.
Why is it proprietary?
You notice he won't let him say what happened. Like, he's cutting him off. It's a challenge to the judge's authority. But the judge, this is some bullshit here. I mean, he's saying basically we had ex parte communications. I can have communications whatsoever. The lawyer here is like, look, I'm not present. Like, you have other parties present here. You're making statements about this or that. And the only way we found out is because of a leak. Somebody let us know about this. This is highly unorthodox, and we want information. The judge's answer is, how did you get that information? How did you get that information? How did you get that information? And he won't tell him. He won't tell him the source of it, because whoever it is, this judge is going to try to destroy them, you know. So,
that you should not be having that was ex parte.
Why?
With a party.
Why?
State of Georgia.
How about the witness? How about Mr. Copeland, who supposedly announced he's not testifying and he'll sit for 2 years, and then supposedly this honorable court, or excuse me, let me rephrase that. This court supposedly said, I can hold you until the end of this trial. Ms. Hilton supposedly said, actually, all of the defendants and then all 26 people are disposed of. If that's true, what this is coercion, witness intimidation, ex parte communications that we have a constitutional right to be present for. So I understand.
Yeah, so look, a witness said that this is a witness that was supposed to, I don't know if they testify. I've been out, like, busy with work all day. But a witness said, yo, I'm not going to testify. And the judge said, you know, essentially, I can make you sit in jail until, and then that threat was followed up with, actually, we can make you sit until every witness testifies, which could be how long? Weeks? Months? That's intimidation for sure. For sure. And it's especially bad when you have a judge here that's just, I mean, this is weird stuff.
I understand that you're upset towards me, but I don't know what I did.
Mr. Steele, I still want to know, how did you come upon this information? Who told you?
What I want to know is, why wasn't I there? Why,
sir, I'm going to hold you in contempt if you don't tell me who tell me who this information was
coming from. I don't want to
come
be
from.
held in contempt. Well, I'm not answering that question. That's attorney-client privilege information. I am not
attorney-client privilege. Unless you were in my chambers, that's the only way you can figure out.
I am telling
I tell you what, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. If you don't tell me, if you don't tell me who it is, I'm going to put you. I'm going to put you in contempt, because that is not attorney-client privilege.
Attorney work product privilege. I am not. How
did you get that information supposedly from my chambers? Did somebody tell you?
I'm not. You should have told me.
You got 5 minutes.
Well, I don't need it. I want to continue.
You got 5 minutes?
This is what I was told. Mr. Copeland made statements that he admitted to killing Donovan Thomas and was. Don't take my notes. No.
He removes a lawyer and tells them after this. He has a lawyer freaking held. He tells them, you know, I'm being removed. My client. Like, you can't go forward with a trial, essentially. My client does not have representation here. You know, he does not have his choice of representation. This is wrong. And the judge is pretty much like, I'll do whatever I want. He did. So it gets even crazier as it goes forward. All right, then you have the judge in the, here, let me pull this up here. All right, give me a second. So then this judge orders a show cause contempt hearing for everyone who was present. He's obsessed with finding his leak. Order to show cause. The court has been presented with an issue of contempt for determination. All individuals that were present for the ex parte conversation that took place in the court's chambers the morning of June 10th, 2024, to include the witness, the attorney, and all representatives of the state and court security personnel that were in attendance, are hereby ordered to show cause before the judge on the 25th of June, 2024. While one or more should not be held in contempt for disclosing information from the ex parte conversation to members of the defense counsel. That's a threat. It is. Prove to me you're innocent. He's hunting for his witch. He's going to burn them. It is further ordered that the failure of any individuals who are present for the June 10th, 2024 ex parte conversation will cause the court to direct the Fulton County Sheriff's Office to take them into custody and to bring them to the bar of this court. Now, as he notes in this, he confesses to the ex parte. And here, assuring fair hearings and averting ex parte communications. Judges shall not intimidate, permit, or consider ex parte communications or consider other communications made to them outside the presence of the parties or their lawyers concerning a pending proceeding or impending matters, subject to the following exemptions. So they say, with that, it requires ex parte communications are authorized for scheduling, administrative purposes, or emergencies that do not deal with substantive matters or issues on the merits. So, meeting with somebody and other members too, meeting with partial counsel, excluding defense counsel, meeting with a witness, threatening a witness through it. I mean, that's insanity. And then saying that you're going to continue a trial without the person's representation there. That's madness. So today, it ended up here. Let's go. We ended up seeing this before the Supreme. You can see this got a criminal emergency motion, and it had to be heard fast because this made national headlines. This is fucking Fulton County is corrupt as shit. I can tell you that. I live in the South. Fulton County actually used to be where the NFL Georgia Dome was. And that place it's been rife with corruption for a long time. People pointed out, there's been the arguments about issues with election and everything else. And what was funny about that when it came up, I was like, you folks are just now figuring out that Fulton County has problems? I mean, Fulton County, Lord. In other states, it was almost like a punchline. We go there, it's like, oh my God, make sure we don't ever get pulled over or something, because we might actually have to go to court, and God knows what might happen out here. But they were notorious for issues. So, this allowed him, while this is going on, to avoid jail time, while the contempt order is under appeal. But it's madness when you look at it, because what you're looking at here, a judge very much did something, and nothing will happen to this judge. This judge will be allowed to continue whatever he's doing. It's his courtroom, and even if he's found guilty of an issue, if he gets slapped on the wrist, I'd be surprised, because that just doesn't happen. Because ultimately you have law, but then you have the determiners of law. And the determiners of law, even when other ones find judges guilty of something, best case scenario, they would remove them. But that usually only happens if somebody's close to retirement. Typically, they have to do so, even in some of the worst, most egregious things we've ever seen. I don't do it. I mean, I want to show you one other thing before we continue, too. And then we'll get to the the Laura Owens thing, but I want to show you this as well, because this really annoyed me today. Now, this is a horrible subject, by the way, but it makes me mad as a mental health provider. It makes me mad as somebody who sees this as a parent and more. And I think that this should be brought up. I think people should see this and they should understand what happened in this. So a few days back, we had a tragedy where a mother and a 3-year-old were attacked outside of a store, and a 3-year-old was killed by this woman who seems to, people keep bringing up her mental health, and that's definitely been under question before. Well, apparently this woman, before she decided to do that, had violated probation in another matter and was before the court for that and was ordered to have a mental health evaluation. But unfortunately, the courts decided, since there was nobody there to evaluate her and she would have to stay in jail for a couple of days to find out about her mental state, they decided that that was too much of an inconvenience. They let her go, and she proceeded to kill a child. This judge here doubles down on it and says, yeah, they asked him, so, seeing what happened, what would you do? And I mean, just listen to this. Like, this is a minute synopsis of that. Just listen to how it comes
Didn't this
up.
woman get a psychiatric mental health evaluation?
We went to Judge Brian Hagan last week. He released Ellis despite a referral for a mental health check. The judge tells us the organization handling mental health evaluations for the court had no one available, and Ellis would have had to sit in jail for days on a minor case.
There wasn't any, as you would say, that red flag shooting up that pole. There wasn't any indications here. No sign of any mental distress. No sign of any previous violent acts.
All right, Bianca, you got warrants.
See, he's wrong in this, though. He says, okay, there's no big red flag. Okay. But then he says there's no indication of mental distress. Asking for a competency hearing is saying that there's an issue of mental health. There is some type of mental health distress. They're not understanding what's going on. You have to have that. And there's usually some kind of emergency proceeding. A judge could go with any way. But, I mean, yeah, this is so double down. So anyway, listen.
Girl.
After the arrest for violating probation, hear why a magistrate called for a mental health check. Listen to court audio.
Miss Alice, can you hear me? Can you tell me, North Olmsted, has she fallen asleep or what's going on? Could you acknowledge me, Miss Alice, please? I think we need to get a mental health evaluation. Let's hold her for an evaluation from Recovery Resources. I'm not sure she fully understands the simple requirements that the court has imposed on her.
Again, Judge Hagan released Bianca Ellis, and he'd do it again, even though she's now indicted for murder.
What would you do differently handling this case, or even next time?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I'm confident in the way that the court handled this matter.
Nothing. The court is totally, they're okay with their decision, because their decision had nothing to do with anything else. That pisses me. I mean, look, as a mental health provider, first of all, when you ask for competency, first of all, if you don't have the resources the state provides anyway are garbage. I'm not taking shots at the workers necessarily with that, because they are well overburdened. But man, the resources provided, are just a joke. But this person, again, if you look at the charges now, originally they were brought up on theft charges. They had you can see the original charges, which had nothing to do with what happens later. But this string of incidents, again, originally you're talking about somebody that was brought in for theft, amended charges. They amended it to unauthorized use of property. And they end up, instead of, again, evaluating how this person, how they they don't seem to be in control of their faculties. They don't understand simple instructions in there. Instead of making sure just on ensuring that the client themselves, or I'm sorry, the I said client, that's a mental health thing popping up. Or if I say service recipient or client, it's because I'm talking about it from a mental health standpoint. But because of a defendant not understanding simple instructions, they're supposed to have a procedure in place. And the judge decided to circumvent that. And what happens after that? A child ends up killed. And the judge is asked, well, would you do anything differently? And the judge's like, nah, I wouldn't. I feel confident I did everything right. Well, apparently you did something wrong, jackass. Because the world is less 1 3-year-old. And that could be anybody. And that's why when we hear, there are discussions in the U.S., if you don't live in the U.S., you can't understand the U.S. and how it dysfunctions. Like me, I go out, I'm strapped all the time. I forget that. Because ultimately, nothing happens. This woman, they not only, without doing the mental health evaluation, they opened the door for her defense on how she is going to go forward. Even if she's found competent, which, looking at a lot of the video that we see, and then with stuff like that statement on record where she should have had a competency hearing, even if she's found guilty, there will be grounds for appeal. She may well walk after doing this to a child. And people, I love it when people say too, well, putting her in a mental health facility instead of finding her guilty, saying that she's incompetent. That's not fun. And it's not. It's a terrible place. They're terrible places. But you know what? You could have one person and one signature signed off on something later down the road. They could suddenly have a quote-unquote recovery and walk away. And it's just disgusting. And ultimately, no one may pay in this. No one. But the system that allowed that person to wander free, it angers me. Yeah, she was non-responsive. Exactly. See, Dose Reality says she was non-responsive, for crap's sake. Like, that's an issue. Either she's using substance or something, or she's having, there's an issue of some sort. And the court wanted that figured out, but it was too much of an inconvenience to follow their own protocol. So a judge steps in and says, no, we're not going to follow that protocol. It makes me mad because we had this argument in the U.S. for the longest time about how, and it was a dumb argument, but there's a point to this I'm making. People would say instead of sending police officers, we should send mental health providers, to ascertain what's going on. And that's a terrible idea, by the way, because you end up with a lot of dead mental health providers. But it shows you that there is a problem. There is a mental health crisis, and you have no idea how many crimes are prevented. I'm talking about terrible things. Let me tell you a story real fast. I was working at a place one time, and a guy came in. He was looking for a mental health facility that had been in the area prior. And this guy was totally just out of it. You could see it in his eyes. He had, when people talk about crazy eyes, obviously that's not a diagnostic tool, but that is something that you observe. You can tell when somebody is just out in the ether, paranoid. I mean, you could see it on them. So this guy comes in, and I had walked up because he was yelling at the front desk person. And I noticed that on his waistband, tucked into his waistband, and his shirt was all jacked up, so I could see it really well. But tucked into his waistband, past his pocket, so it wasn't like right on his side, like you might wear a firearm, but over toward almost lined up with his knee, this guy had a firearm. And when I looked at him and he looked over at me and I looked down, and when I looked down, I saw that. He saw that I saw it. And he went for his firearm, and I went for it too. I was like, holy shit, he's gonna shoot somebody. And I ended up getting it before he did. I ended up being faster than him. And police came up. This guy, he was off medication. He was out in the weeds. And I don't know where he got a firearm. I don't know, but that kind of stuff. Like what could that guy have done there? You don't know. I mean, he's wandering around with a firearm, and his arguments, what he was yelling about and stuff, you could tell it was a mental health crisis, because he was yelling nonsensical statements. Things that just did not make sense. But they were really paranoid ranting. So I came up there to try to diffuse the situation, because holy crap. And that was a frightening thing. I was like, oh my God. It's funny. One time I went over to Big Lots in our little town. Big Lots is like a big thing here, we don't have that many stores. And there was a guy in the front that is a homeless guy. I'd see him around quite a bit. And he's very mentally ill. And he was up front yelling and everything else. And people were avoiding him like the plague, and he was shirtless. He didn't have a weapon on him. You could see, unless he had a weapon in his pocket. But he didn't have anything he just reached for real fast. So I went up and I talked to him. And, I got him to calm down. We walked over, got him a little, there's a little food place right over there. Got him something to eat real quick. Talked him into going over to one of the mental health places down the street. So got him to go over there. Actually called and got him a ride to make sure that he went over there. But I went back in anyway to finish my stuff up. And the cashier was like freaked out by everything. And I thought, they were talking about how scary that was. And, oh man, you did, blah, blah, blah. Such a great job. And I kept thinking, man, that's like every day that ends in Y in mental health. That's not that unusual. People are yelling and stuff. If you work with high risk clientele, like every day can be like that. I've had some interesting, and it's not, when I talk about this stuff, it's unfortunate because people, they don't have, a lot of people, especially, you're talking about the highest need are the lowest economic strata. They don't have emergency shelter or emergency facilities in a lot of places. They don't have anywhere to go. They also, under the law, you have all these nobody can force you to take your medication. And all this, and that's just wild. So when I see something like this, where they have a setup where they could potentially have stopped this, and a judge is telling me I didn't do anything wrong because of the termination. Yeah, on paper, you can use that as an excuse. That works out really good. But your decision ended up costing a little kid their lives. And nothing will be learned from that. In fact, the doubling down, they'll just go back to normal. It's a headline right now, but it won't be a headline for very long. The woman that did it too, man, there's videos of her at her hearing. Oh my God, it just infuriates me to watch that stuff. I try not to watch it because it's heart-wrenching. But the mental health component to it just, it makes me angry. Now, let me pull something up here. I wanted to talk about this yesterday. Oh, by the way, Tracy, thank you too. I forgot to hit that one. The Georgia Supreme Court issued the bond today. Yeah, I did catch that. I'm glad to. Like I said, apologies for pulling up the wrong video there, the 9-minute one. I didn't really need to play. Like, if you want to watch a judge though do everything wrong. We have crazy trials going on. Like this is the Laura Owens trial is the one that I want to cover here. Because again, if people if for some reason you run across this and you don't know what trial we're talking about before we look at this, you have Clayton Echard, Bachelor fame. He has a real estate license. He shows a woman a couple of places. He ends up having a tryst with her. They end up having, let's say, oral relations twice. From that, she claims that she got pregnant. And it gets very nasty. Well, as you go along, Clayton Echard finds some real problems in this, like the fact that she presented a sonogram, which matches up totally with a YouTube sonogram that was years old. She's also, she approaches the media. She shops this around. And it's wild. She gives him a dating contract and says that she will have an abortion if he will date her, give her a chance. And also says, in the messages there, I'm pregnant anyway. I'm the best person to have relations with. And if you do, you'll see just how tight I am. Again, tackle it. It's so gross to say, but she writes this, there's a point to it. As this goes forward and she gets caught in multiple lies, she says that Clayton Echard actually arped her against her will while he was so high he can't remember all of this stuff. Now, he vehemently denies this, but she's saying that he couldn't give consent because he was too high. And yet, she continued, and he had penetrated somewhat, which goes against what she wrote about tightness and more. Well, then it gets even more bizarre. And again, I'm doing just high points. This is insanity. So you find out that there are other people that have had similar issues. On top of that, too, I forgot to add this, Clayton Echard had a protective order taken against him by her, in which she based it on a bunch of fabricated bullshit. That is totally my opinion on that. And she has done that multiple times to men. She has presented multiple dating contracts. It looks like this on repeat. So we had a trial over that, and all of this comes alive, and it's so bad that anybody who watches it, like, she admits to faking evidence, and she doesn't meet with an OBGYN, any kind of real provider. She doesn't have actual evidence like you should have. She also changes up her story on the stand, which was wild to watch. Megan, by the way, will be back tomorrow. So Megan Fox will be back tomorrow. She was at the hearing. We'll talk all about what was there, how everything came together, and whatever else was in that. I think that'll be a fun conversation because we'll be able to get into the nitty-gritty of it. Excuse me, I'm gonna light my cigar. Man, that thing, that kid thing made me irritated. I'm like, calm. But after everything, you have her lawyer decide that he's going to put out a blog, which is, remember this, okay? I need you to understand something when we talk about something like this. This is her statement, all right? People that I've never seen a lawyer blog and do more damage than this guy's ever done to communication or to a side of something. But this is her statement. This is their reaction. Remember, when he speaks, this is Laura Owens speaking. As her representation, it isn't just him giving opinions. This is her counsel talking about what's going on. He's also, interestingly enough, he's supposedly unreachable on vacation And yet, while he's unreachable, he can still talk about, and he is on vacation, by the way. You know, he went overseas. He's out of reach right after the trial ends. But he's also talking about court filings and more, too. I mean, it's strange. He's like, hey, I'm going to be unreachable. I'm in France. I'm relaxing. And he's like, oh, you know, well, let me talk about court orders and how it's easier to find them, blah, blah, blah. And it's so bizarre. And amidst that, again, we had this. So check this out. I want to read this to you because it is crazy. So Laura Owens versus Clayton Echard. Now what? Some thoughts. If asked to describe the trial in one word, ish. Anti-climax. Sorry, that's terrible. I suck at humor. I know this. So he makes a sex joke. Right off the bat, his client is saying that she has been armed. She had penetration against her will. This is how much he takes that seriously. He makes a sex joke about this stuff. I mean, really drink that idea before we continue with that. Like how messed up that is. The whole case in and of itself. You have multiple men that are saying that they've been victimized by this person, utilizing fake pregnancies, extortion through sex, or extortion after sex, and then, dating, dating stuff on top of that. He makes sex jokes about it. I think that's a commentary on how much you believe your client, though, personally. That's how I take that. I mean, I can't imagine being a lawyer thinking that my client had actually been violated and then making sex jokes. Well, I mean, that's insane. So, moving on. I'm guessing everyone has the same main thoughts. So here's mine. Number one. Now, I actually never thought I would agree with the guy on anything. But here is one thing that I do agree on. 2 hours for the trial was effing BS. I very much agree with that. I honestly don't think... I get why they put timers on cases, because if you didn't, every case would drag on till eternity. But at the same time, we've had... when the state wants to, or the Fed wants to go after somebody... They want to put you on trial, like say a RICO trial. We've had trials go on months and months and months. They set records for this kind of stuff. But when it comes to you getting justice and clearing your name, you're put on a timer of 50 minutes plus 10 minutes for technical difficulties. That is, there's no justice in that whatsoever, in my opinion. That's so messed up. Hey, what's up, Tracy? By the way, thanks for the 5. What if he's too high to remember? That he was too high to consent? No, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. You cannot give consent if you are too high to her own statements. Now, he denies that being the case. He says he remembers everything. It's etched in. But her own narrative, and this has happened before with her narratives, her own narrative makes her a perpetrator. If you reverse this and said, Clayton Echard was with somebody and they made those statements, I don't want to say that and have that. But, any man, if you were to say a man was with a woman, she was too high to remember anything that was going on, what would you call that? But with Clayton, it's just, it's no big deal, right? But 2 hours is BS. Nowhere even close to enough time to have a meaningful exploration of the story. Didn't have time to talk to Clayton. No closing, nada. It was like New Year's Eve party that lasted from 8 to 10. Who does that? Now, like I said, I do agree. Because Clayton, he had the prior men that were in there that were going to speak. And remember, one of those men, so this is crazy too. If people did keep up or didn't keep up, this is wild. So one of these men she got a protective order against. her lawyer rather kept threatening to have arrested if he came and spoke at trial, even though he was being subpoenaed for trial. He's being told, you have to show up. So he can correct this if this is wrong. But from what I understand, so you had law enforcement everywhere. And the amount of law enforcement was absurd. They apparently, from some of the people that I talked to that were there, they knew the names of people that had been covering it. They didn't just know Clayton Echard and his lawyers. They knew other people. Like they could point out a Reality Steve or a Dave Neal or a Megan Fox. They knew who they were. Now, how does that happen? Because they're not watching coverage. I can tell you how that happens. Somebody was saying that these folks right here are either directly or indirectly dangerous. They're inciting an issue, and it's going to... So you have a strong presence. I even heard... Now, I heard this from a couple of people. Again, police can correct this too. This is what I heard. That there were UCs or undercovers that were there as well. Quite a few of them, in fact. And not because, we're not just talking, like their public statement about items like this is, well, during matters involving celebrity, well, no. I mean, you have dogs there, making sure there's no, there's no threat, no device, nothing being planted. If you have undercovers blending in with the crowds, I mean, they were expecting something terrible. Now, on top of that, the reason I bring that up isn't just to say that, but to also bring up the fact that they apparently weren't told about Mike or the guy who had the protective order against him. Instead, the lawyer for Laura Owens called 911. Now, you think about that. You think about, like, you have all this police presence. You could just go to one person right there and talk to them. But instead, they call 911? You know what kind of outcomes you get from stuff like that sometimes. And you can imagine the guy that went through all of this. He never even got a chance to speak. And considering, these folks, considering their protective orders. Now, I don't know the details of their protective orders, but they may not be able to speak. Protective orders can be, I have seen protective orders enforced against people for, like, on social media, for example, for doing things like following an account. And I don't mean like click and follow. I mean basically reciting what a person has been doing on social media. Like to that level, that could be a violation. So an in-person someone, they're violating, they're up here, I'm scared for my life, or my client is. Like, how could that turn out? I think that should have been, I get too, protective orders are serious. They need to be taken seriously by courts. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be. But in this matter, the way that it was going on, I've never seen, most courts, even with a person with a protective order or anything else, typically when you're leaving a courtroom, they don't escort people out or even offer, which is kind of crazy. But in this case, it was stagger people leaving, make sure they don't ever have any connection. And then on top of that, I just, like I said, it's wild to see. And it gives you an idea of how much communication was probably done with the police. Now, number two, the lack of time cut both ways. It's unquestionably hurt both sides. I think that I thought that Clayton Echard's lawyers did very good. When I look at that, I've seen it 3 times. I covered it in my last live stream. It's long, but still, I think it's worth watching. You can watch it on 1.5 speed because I speak slow because I'm Southern. But I thought they did a good job. I think there was so much more they could add. I think this judge knew what was going on. In fact, there was a lie that she had told about Planned Parenthood. And if she wants to say that this is not a lie, then she needs to fork over some real data. Because she said that she went and got services from Planned Parenthood. Now, there was a sonogram that was changed from them. You know, it had names and dates changed. And at first she said, I went there anonymously. Well, you can't. You can't do that. In fact, one of the witnesses, I hate expert witnesses unless they have a real point. And the real point, Clayton's expert witness, one thing that they brought in that I thought was very useful in this, they were a former head at Planned Parenthood. So they knew how the procedure worked. And you can't do that. You can't do that anywhere. You can't just go in and get anonymous care or abortion or whatever. You just can't do that. But she then says that she actually went under another name. She had essentially, refused to provide any medical evidence, anything that would back that up. But she changes her narrative on the stand and says she went under a fake name. Now, the judge asked something that I thought was really telling in this, and it looked like that might have backfired on her. The judge asked, as far as HCG tests, there are many ways, like a pee on a stick test. There are many ways to throw those off, including there are many mental health meds. There are also, medications for to help with conception, I'm going to say. And the judge asked the question about, could some of this medication have been picked up at a Planned Parenthood meeting? Could they have given that to her? And the answer was yes, of course. They can give you that. Any doctor dealing with that, this isn't some kind of control, the control on it. We're not talking about narcotics or something where people would shy away. This is a medication. If requested, yes. Now, again, there are many ways that is in a realm of could have. But the judge asking that happens and her not being able to refute it, because she says that she won't turn over what happened there. That went another way that and they couldn't counter that, by the way. They had no time left to counter things like that. But the judge judge seemed pretty on this is messed up. I mean, when you tell the judge, she told the judge told her answer questions in yes, no, maybes as well. Simple answers, yes, no, or maybe. And she decided to argue with the judge and tell the judge, that's not fair, judge, da-da-da-da-da. And that's just... Counsel will try, in the best case scenario, counsel will try to mess with you that way. And that's what redirect's supposed to be for. But they burned up all their time messing around with... They had to hire an expert OBGYN because she didn't have one. So they had to hire a guy who came in and actually, I thought, did damage to them. He had to admit at the end of the day that he had overlooked a lot of her faking evidence. He had to selectively look at things, and many of them that were provided by her, and say, oh yeah, taking her word for things, plus some pee tests. Yes, she definitely was pregnant. So he did damage there. So anyway, from his personal biased view aside, the lack of time hurt Clayton's side way more than it hurt ours. Our story was short and fairly basic. Did I get a chance to cover everything? Not even close, but we covered enough. And sometimes that's all you need. Yeah, I don't think so. I think, here's the problem. The story had already been presented. A lot of judges, they don't tune into the particular details all the time. If Gingras wouldn't have been such a nut job with filing, and I would say making the court mad, making everyone mad, maybe he would have gotten away with that. But his own tactics forced the court to actually respond. And in their responses, they were paying attention. You could tell that the court had actually been reading through this stuff. I mean, it's a wild case. The judge, too. The judge, I thought, was very aware of what happened in their courtroom. Was very nice to the media and the gallery, to everyone there, but was harsh on Laura a few times. By comparison, though, Clayton's approach was, and has always been, to try and drag way too much extraneous BS into the case. I don't personally fault him for this. If he only limited our story to things that happened between May and November 2023, the story is nowhere near as interesting, and boring stories don't sell very well. Yeah, what they want you to do is focus on her narrative of just look at the P-tests and then look at where we went from that. Everything else, that none of that can be real. What's up, Heather? Thanks for the 5, by the way. This note is saying Clayton brought too much subject points. Yeah, too much off subject points. He whined about a ruling. Then the real estate. He asked pointless questions. Indeed, the way he went after Clayton Echard's character in this was to say, oh, but by the way, X, Y, and Z happened during their real estate endeavors. So you can't trust him. And Clayton was like, she sent me over 500 messages from 13 different phone numbers. She contacted through 13 different phone numbers. In my experience, though, simpler is almost always better. Then again, Clayton's effort to expand the case may have been a goldmine for YouTubers making sweet super chat cheddar off each new video. By the way, if you like this content and enjoy the channel, please consider sending some of that, quote, sweet super chat cheddar for this new video. He's butthurt enough because by now he at first did not know what a super chat was. He actually did not understand that terminology, and by now he understands it. I very much do think, no matter what happens, though, they will sue Dave Neal, for sure. They may sue other people, too. Who knows who they might sue, but I think they're going to go after Dave Neal. It won't be over for that, So I hope people stay connected to what happens after the decision, because I have this feeling that things, they aren't just going to go away. The type of background that we had, I'm going to say alleged. I firmly, like I said, I believe what Clayton Echard and his team showcased. I mean, why would you believe Laura Owens? I mean, she lied repeatedly. Even her own lawyer had to tell you, you can't think about her credibility. You have to listen to my story and buy into it, including her words, But you can't believe her because she has some credibility issues, aka she lied. Yeah. So my rule, he says, if a story requires more than 10 to 15 seconds to present, you risk losing your audience. Always keep it simple. Go back to basics. That's actually not true with a lot of court hearings. It really depends on it. Depends on how it's going. When it's very salacious, you want a judge to pay attention. They kept this in front of this judge. Some of the stuff that was there is insane. And you could tell the judge was paying attention. Again, plus there was the protective order that was looped into it too. With them saying, hey, this protective order is trash. She lied about it to get it. So, yeah. No. That is more or less the approach I tried to use today. And for the record, I had about 100 pages of questions ready for everyone who did not testify, which I promptly threw out the window once the judge made it clear how little time we had. And that's sad, too. Those men that did not get to have their voice, I wonder if they're ever going to be able to have their voice again. You know, they took a big risk. And Laura, yeah, if you believe what's said about Laura, do you think she will forgive and forget? Do you think she won't take that as a personal slight? Some reason to go after them again and again? Because I don't, personally. By the way, Sandra D., thank you for that gifted membership, too. Thank you. Appreciate it. And Rhode Island Lake, thanks for the 10 there. Sweet super chat cheddar, baby. Yeah, get that cheese, baby. Get that cheese. I'm sorry I'm singing. Actually, you know what? I had a really shitty day today. You ever have those I quit days? And not like I quit on work, but you're like, I'm done with everything. I wash my hands of everything. I quit. I'm shutting down right now. I was having one of those. So I'm getting in a better, like super chatting. You know, when you said that and I'm start singing, actually I noticed like my mood is, I always get in a better mood, even with these horrible topics, because I enjoy talking to you folks. So thank you for being here. Aussie Wombat. I like it too. Thanks for that. Here's some cheese for your breadsticks. Yeah, that's the way I order my breadsticks. Always with the cheese, baby. It's hilarious. As a lawyer who has done this for 20 plus years, my view is Laura is an outstanding witness. No, that is not the reality that I saw. Laura argued with the judge. She started to crack under the pressure up there, and she was actually given time for a break. They took their break then, which I actually thought was unfair, to be honest. But the judge's statements on that, the judge didn't seem to be like, oh, poor you need a break. The judge gave a break because they were issued one. But, you know, Clayton here is talking about he's being accused of ARP and all these other horrible things. Man, what if he would have had an emotional time? Is he just supposed to sit there and eat it? Of course he is. He's a big tough guy, right? So he has to. It's so awful, you know. There's no consideration to the trauma that, like, he did really well in that. You know, he did it matter-of-factly. He was calm. He didn't get upset. But my God, he could have. Because the pressure, it's a lot. But given the pressure she was under, so it's all the pressure for her. Yeah, I couldn't have asked her to do any better. Yes, the audience chuckled. Go fuck yourself, by the way. That's what he says right here. Go fuck yourself. They chuckled. It seriously hurt Laura. But I'm beyond proud of Laura for what she did today. Yeah, they laughed about some of the absurdity that was coming in. And the judge was like, hey, you know, none of that. But in the same breath, like, it was pretty matter of fact with the media and with the gallery. But she was hardcore on Laura when that came up. By the way, thank you, Heather. Thanks for the 2. Here's money for the nutritionist. I know, man. I got black nails, apparently. You know, black shirt. For sure. And SF, thanks for the 2 there. Some of that sweet super cheddar. Cheddar, baby. Get my cheese on. Thank you. You can tell, like, he's taking this very, very personally, too. When he's like, go fuck yourself. You know? My number one thing is that I always want to get to the truth. Really? That's fascinating. You said you were going to quit the case if you found out your client lied. Then, when you found out your client lied, you gave caveats that said, well, this isn't bad. She admitted to that. Everyone makes mistakes. Woodnick and Deandra clearly don't share that view. That's just my personal opinion. But I feel they could care less about the truth, and that's a shame. Yeah. Hey, will you turn over those medical records so we can actually review what's here? They fight. Oh, by the way, yeah, we went to Planned Parenthood, but it was under a fake name that we didn't turn over. Oh, and in a different area. I forgot that too. Changed the area. It was like the subpoena states that this area and all these surrounding areas, they were included. Oh, not the Los Angeles area. So you're saying now that you did this in Los Angeles, not the other place you said? Yeah, that's where I did it. Getting to the truth, right? This really isn't the time or place to air all my grievances, but let me give you one example of conduct that I feel was way across the line. Laura admitted that when she got the 102 HCG test, October 16th, she knew it was bad news because it meant the pregnancy was in the process of ending. If it hadn't already, it's impossible to know for sure. In a moment of panic, she doctored the test to change the reading to 130,000 or whatever and sent that to Dave Neal because she thought it might shut him up. So here, she fakes more evidence. She sends it. Now, here's one of the things, too. I want to use a different word. I don't consider myself a journalist because I don't like what journalist means in this day and age. However, if we were to truly use the word journalist and utilize it correctly, what Dave Neal has done is great investigative journalism. He can make all the jokes he wants or anything else, but ultimately, he's not a comedian. He was an investigative journalist. He just broke this easier to you because it's a horrible case and a horrible situation. And there are many other people. With an investigative journalist, you don't do it on your own. It's not just one person with a magnifying glass, looking for clues. It's somebody out there that's relying on so many other folks. And Dave Neal was the tip of that. And, a lot of us would comment, like for me, this case was fascinating for me to look at, but I was not the tip of that spear. I don't take any credit for anything that was found there. I don't take any credit. That was other people. They found it. You folks were remarkable. Props and praise to you because you were remarkable on what you found, especially in the face of what kind of thing this was. But for this, she took a test, and we knew it was fake. Not only because we didn't know which one was fake at first. What I said when it was brought up, though, if you go back and watch the live streams for it, I said we don't know. But I imagine whichever one leans heavier into pregnancy, which would be the higher number, that would be the one that's fake. That's what she did. She continued the pregnancy narrative to Dave Neal, even though she had evidence that that was not the case at all. She approached a member of media, and she tried to feed them a bullshit story so they would go away. Right? Thanks for the 3 months. She admitted to willfully ignoring the court order to provide all records. Indeed. Subpoenas. She dodged. She was like, my anonymity is more important than. Which is insane. So everyone slams Laura for doing this, but not me. Of course you don't. You're fucking paid. You're a paid cheerleader. You're tantamount. Like if we were watching an NFL game, you aren't in the owner's box. You are not a coach or assistant coach. In your capacity right here, you're a cheerleader. You're sitting on the sidelines, showing off your tramp stamp and your miniskirt with your pom-pom saying, give us a T, give us a W, give us an I, give us an N. Why? Because you can't spell twin without win. Rah, rah, Laura. Have you thought about that? I was thinking about that the other day. You can't spell twin without win. We're winning, baby. Twinning. We're not only winning, we're twinning. By the way, I need a picture of that. I need my avatar with a hashtag across its chest that says hashtag twinning with the winning part in boldface, with the T, so it shows it because you can't spell winning without twinning. It's amazing. Not him, though. I compare it to the story from earlier this year where Princess Kate Middleton released a photoshopped image of her family after she mysteriously dropped out of public view. So now she's like Kate Middleton. I don't remember Kate Middleton falsely accusing a man of horrific items, and then going in and doctoring evidence in a court trial. I don't seem to remember that playing out that way. Now, she's not only like that Black Mirror episode, she's also like Kate Middleton. It is so crazy. I need a cheerleading avatar. Yeah, that's what I said. Like, yeah. She went missing because she was diagnosed with cancer. You would think they would avoid this, by the way, like the plague. Any mention of any, like, the ovarian cancer thing, considering how that came up. You would think her lawyer would never mention cancer ever again, but she released a doctored photo as a way of trying to distract from that. The ruse worked for about 2 seconds before she was called out. Laura's 130,000 or whatever HCG test was done for a similar purpose. Laura only sent that to folks like Dave Neal. She never used it in court, and she didn't fake the documents for any malicious or nefarious purposes. She was just trying to regain some privacy. So she was communicating with media for privacy. That's unreal, right? I'm trying to be the... you remember the jokes about, again... like, dislike, I haven't even kept up with it. But I saw this South Park thing about the Prince, Harry and Meghan Markle, and, they were on the privacy tour. We want privacy. And, they were doing it on all these different talk shows and stuff in that. And that's what it reminds me of. It's actually more akin to what she's saying here. That would be like Laura Owens going out and saying, me and the twins, we just need some privacy. And like, wait, what? What there? No, wait. And yeah, he said, this is a dumb way to do it. Seriously, Kate Middleton had a huge PR machine behind her. And she made the mistake. Different, but the same. Yeah, your dumbass and all you lawyers couldn't control your client at all. You allowed your client to continually go out and continually do crazy things. And that's just absolutely crazy. But my point is that Deandra dishonestly, in my opinion, tried to misrepresent the facts by claiming that Laura doctored the 130,000 or whatever HCG test twice. No, Deandra, she did not. And you know that. The way that Laura states it, she states that she did twice. So your problem here is that not that she doctored stuff and sent it to people. Your problem is that you disagree with the fact that she did it twice. That is so patently dishonest. I don't even know where to start on something like that. That's nuts. Like Catherine here said, thanks for the 2 there. Just a little minor perjury, baby. That's right. Indeed. Indeed. And Rhea Rye, thanks for the 2. Dave said that Laura Owens sent the HCD test to him and Clayton. Yes, that's where we get the whole statement off of that. And she denies, though, anytime something was inconvenient, it was the byproduct of either people lying or hacking, which was quite insane when you think about it. Greg Gillespie, again, if you haven't kept up with this case, Greg Gillespie, one of the people that was there to testify that she had done this stuff to him too, she said, oh, he's the person that hacked and sent this stuff. Clayton Echard was like, how do I know this was actually her? Because she had this continual email or message or whatever chain that she was sending, and it was coming from the same place. So it just continued through it. So she's essentially saying that this guy broke in, sent a message during that chain, one that didn't work out for her. But that's all he did there. He sent that piece. But the rest of it, when it was convenient, was from her. Like, it's so wild. She brought up emails. Again, like Clayton, she accused him of ARP and was saying he was too high to remember. And he didn't respond to that message directly and try to refute it. Therefore, that's an admission of guilt, right? I mean, she sent 500 plus messages, just in this short time span, but he didn't respond to that. I would think the lack of response is actually more of a statement, because he's like, oh my God, I ain't doing this, Emma, thanks for the can the judge watch the old trial to compare lies? The judge can review anything they want. The judge has everything there. Anything that has been admitted, the judge can watch. So if it was actually admitted, you're asking that, it actually has to be a piece of evidence in the court. That's what the judge reviews. So there were conversations and more. But as far as the trial itself, I don't believe that was admitted. Although, interestingly, we had the deposition. You remember that being leaked by none other than her lawyer. He actually leaked quite a few things. He leaked the expert witness statements from Clayton's side. He did that without the knowledge of anyone else involved. He put that out. He's also, again, he put out names. The first, again, I use the word alleged. I firmly believe them. We did not get to hear from them, though. They were not there. But the first name, there was a name of another guy that came up. And this guy's name, we actually knew that name. Like, I want to stress that, too. You want to talk about how improper this guy acted. All right. An actual member of the media, Megan Fox, knew this name. Other people, again, like Dave Neal, I would say investigative journalists, myself, call us whatever you want, and more. We knew this name, but we did not put that name out there because it was not. This person is a victim, and if they decide, I think they needed to speak. But if they decide to speak, that is their right. It's a horrible thing, and you're asking them to drudge up something terrible done. The other people showed up. We can't speak, we can't speak to why, but I imagine it would be not only to have your voice, but to try to not have this happen to more people, to finally be able to speak up and say, this person is a serial offender. That's the narrative that was put forward in the courtroom. This person is a serial offender. And remember, by the way, the judge has access to all of that. So even though they didn't speak, the judge still has access to anything that was filed before. They noted, at the beginning of Clayton's time on the stand, they actually talked about it. So let's see. What happened is that when Deandra first asked Laura about the test, which originally said 102, the genuine document, Laura said she changed it to something much higher. Then she threw out a figure like 102, which makes sense. Deandra then showed the actual fake document, which clearly said a different number. 131,902. Wait. So, oopsie. She didn't say 131,902. She said 102. That's your problem? Wait. Anyone who is following along understands exactly what happened. When Laura was asked to describe the fake version of the document, she didn't have it in front of her. Based on her memory, she admitted to changing it to a much higher number, which is true. Laura said something like 102. Makes sense, giving the number. True number was 102, but the actual figure was 131,902. Did Laura lie? Perjury? No. Laura simply didn't remember the exact number. Why would she? With everything else running through her mind. She didn't commit perjury, remember. She didn't lie on the stand. She didn't blackmail people. No, of course not. Deandra tried to twist that minor slip of memory to make it look like Laura created two versions of the fake document. One that said 102. Well, 102,000, I should say. Since that's 102. Yeah. And one that says 131,902. Deandra must have repeated that dramatic point 3, 4, maybe 5 times. Yes! It was a big deal. But it's big enough that you feel like you need to bring this up as what is essentially a PR mouthpiece here. But Deandra knew that there were not two versions of that document. She knew that for a fact. She knew this because there is no version that says 102,000. If you have one, show it to me, and I'll apologize and buy you nachos. I wouldn't eat anything that you buy anyone, by the way. I'll buy you some nachos. Yeah. Just like you'd quit the case if you found out your client lied, right? You'll apologize. Hell will freeze over, you know. Oh my God. Again, rah, 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 shish boom ba. Laura Owens is right, y'all. I mean, come on. Man, this case cracks my brain. But the truth is, ethically, compromised lawyers are part of this profession. So, they're ethically compromised lawyers now. Not Gingras. He's not an ethically compromised lawyer. No, he's a truth sayer. He's a tramp stamp truth sayer, baby. I mean, how dare you? How dare you think otherwise? But them, they're ethically compromised. Which is exactly why I refuse to walk away from this line of work. Because I want to do everything I can to help bring the truth to the light, even if, and actually because, there are people like Deandra and Greg out there trying to do the exact opposite. Man, how many times are you going to go after the opposing counsel, by the way? You've made threats. You've said you're going to go after their ability to practice law, making complaints about them and more. I mean, you've threatened. Again, he says, no. I wasn't making threats. When I said I was the Conor McGregor, again, if you didn't see this little chapter, it was amazing. He said he was the Conor McGregor of litigation. And he said that people that had gone up against him before had lost their license and even been jailed. You know, the inference there was, going against me will get you jailed. And he was like, no, it's not what it was just a matter of fact. You know, later on, unconnected to what I was doing, people went to jail. That's what I meant. It's like, yeah, sure you did. Dr. Medchill had a lot more to say, but due to time constraints, we had to limit his comments to only the stuff that mattered. And at the end of the day, Dr. Medchill told me over and over and over, his view is exactly what he said. Laura was pregnant, no question. She got pregnant, pregnancy failed pretty early on. We don't know exactly when, but every single data point we have lines up with a narrative. The only data points that don't line up are things that we know aren't genuine, like the 131,902 HCG reading. The Planned Parenthood sonogram isn't part of that analysis because, as we all know, it can't be verified. So we just don't consider it. Look at how dishonest that is. The Planned Parenthood, the thing that speaks to her credibility and the fact that she fakes items. Something that was, if you listen to what Greg Woodnick said, that was included, which they say wasn't ever included in anything presented to the court. Greg Woodnick's like, you remember when, blah, blah, blah? They don't consider that. And Woodnick actually made quite the deal of that, and understandably and justifiably. You know, he was like, look, you faked documentation. You did fake documentation. I mean, there's proof of it. What's up, Donna, by the way? Thanks for the 12 months. She got hacked. But everyone, according to her, what? Is her password 12345? I'm sure everyone will get the movie reference. Indeed, you know, or you like hackers, you know, is it God or, you know? Indeed. And Heather, thanks for the 2 there. We're him and his client. Were they separated at birth? BS. Well, I mean, you know, this is PR. This is like how PR spinning works. This is absolutely how it works, you know. But as for the objective facts, we do know are genuine. They all support Laura's story. All of them. Every single one. I'm sorry. Literally every single one. Literally, baby. Literally. Woo. Literally. Dr. Medchill had no bias in this case. He never met Laura. No, he had no bias. He just, who is he getting his paycheck from? This is what I hate about expert witnesses too. Try to pretend that they have no bias when really, who did she get paid, or who did he get paid for? How many thousands of dollars did he get paid just to sit there and to talk about this, to travel and more? So they pull down quite the hefty paycheck. Expert witnesses are a racket that, again, I'm not going to go off on that. I did the other day. But it annoys me so badly because essentially, you know, Clayton, even if he wasn't going to hire an expert witness, was forced to hire an expert witness to go after that fact too. He's going to have to, you know. I mean, when any layperson can look at this and be like, what the fuck? Like any layperson, but this person claims to be a scientist, you know. But never met her family or the case. He wasn't doing anyone a favor. No, of course not. He's paid, right? He's not a friend or a friend of Laura's family or anything like that. He was paid for his time. Boom. Paid for. He was paid for his opinion, not his time. You didn't pay him to just come sit and sit on his hands and watch and observe. No, you paid him for an opinion. You would never have paid him if he would have said that Laura is a liar. That's my problem with expert witnesses in a nutshell. You would never bring an expert witness to a trial and pay them thousands and thousands of dollars just to have them go in and say, no. And we disclosed every detail of this to Woodnick without him even asking for it, because transparency is important. Now, we disclosed what Dr. Medchill said. You really have to drink that in. We didn't disclose everything, like the Planned Parenthood supposed meeting and a fake name, which, I mean, he's part of that narrative, right? His client's presenting that. Either they're presenting it with no awareness or so. Transparency matters, though. Transparency is important. It's like, are you kidding me? You know? I mean, Laura was thin enough on the stand that you could almost see through her. So, I mean, maybe that's transparency. I mean, seriously, she looked... This is another point I want to bring up. Like, the way she was dressed and everything, what she was wearing. I told somebody this before, when you could see her in the courtroom. I was like, you know, the reason they're going to do that is because they're going to show that picture of her where she's supposedly pregnant, pooched out stomach, and they're going to do a comparison. They're going to say, look at me now. You knew that was part of the strategy, but they were going to use that as a visual. Because again, you know, they don't do theatrics, right? They don't. The other side is the theatrical side. Yeah. Heather, thanks for the additional too. The practicing attorney slaughtered his expert. Oh, they did. I mean, my God. They destroyed, which was amazing. At the end of the day, I'm not going to make any predictions about how the court will rule. Once we get the ruling, I might offer some views about it or I might not. I'm going to say if I were a betting man, which I do not like to gamble, you know, but if I were a betting man, in fact, this is funny. So my oldest daughter, she's funny about stuff. She said, you know, she was like, I'm so good at stuff and I'm so lucky. If we were to buy a lottery ticket right now, I'd win. And I was like, you would, huh? You know, because we stopped by a gas station, and you know, they had that big lottery thing outside, and she was like, I would win. I was like, you would, huh? Okay. So I went inside, and I got a scratch off because I thought it would be funny, right? And I was like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. You know, I'm getting this. This is yours. Like, obviously she can't play, but I'm gonna get it. You know, it's mine. But you know, this is your test of it. She won $100. I was like, that's funny. So I got 4 more, and then I stopped there. Because, you know, I told her, like, you know, again, giving your money away for that, like, the odds are not in your favor. But I thought it'd be funny. So 4 of them. Out of 4, she won $20. She had 1 dud in there. 1 get another scratch off, and the other one had like an inconsequential, whatever the lowest amount is that you could get. But I was like, my God, out of 5 tries, I was like, I'm gonna get her to pick some. The next time there's a mega lottery, I'm gonna be like, so, you know, just for discussion's sake, well, if you were gonna pick some lucky numbers, what would be your lucky numbers? But if I were a betting man, you know, this would be one thing I would say, yeah, he's probably going to talk about that, you know. He also says, I've said this and I say it again, if I believe the court made a decision that's legally incorrect, we'll pursue an appeal. I told you he's planning that. He's already said it. We now may not win this initially, but eventually we will win. Again, paraphrasing. But that's what he was saying. But because I don't know what the judge is going to do, I'm not going to speculate about what the future looks like. You are speculating. You're saying, when you say this right here, this does not feel like somebody that is confident that they're going to win a case. You know, you're already thinking appeal already. And again, I'm not talking strategy-wise. He was talking appeal way before stuff came up. So that's why, you know, when he was talking about how much stuff that Woodnick and Clayton, you know, they'd put on record, was making fun of all of the items there, I was thinking, yeah, you know, there's a reason. But yeah, Laura was upset when the audience laughed at her. I can't believe how strong Laura was to sit there with a courtroom full of people just projecting hate, hate, hate toward her. Laura's such a good person. She's such a good person, man. She's such a good person. She's just been so unfairly portrayed in this. I've gotten to know Laura extremely well over the last 2.5 months. She's nothing like what people think. Huh. Would you be in a relationship with Laura? There's a very interesting question. If in another timeline, in another life, just to say, Laura, or a person like Laura ran across, would you have a tryst with her? Would you feel confident in that? How would you feel if? And again, I that's not something he would answer in that round. But, yeah, I think that would be a good question. I also don't think today was a cakewalk Clayton expected. When the trial ended, Clayton sat at his table looking like he was going to cry. He didn't. So Clayton has been through this horrific situation. The lawyer says that he looks emotional. But it was because of the items there. No, it's because he's the victim in the case, bud. You wouldn't know that because, you know, you have your green shaded lenses. You're talking about the victim there. Of course he's emotional. On my way out the door, I did wish him well. And he returned the comment. See, that's because Clayton Echard is a nice person. When you talk about that, like one of the things that has struck me, you get to watch people. You get to watch their forward-facing stuff. And I talk to other people that have had discussions with him, that have met with him, and the interviews that he's given, I said he's just like that. Like that's the person that's there. You know, it's not different on the camera versus off the camera. It's not PR and strategy and more. That's just how the guy is. The facts of the trial are emotionally brutal for all parties. That's why it's called a trial, because the experience is extremely difficult, aka trying for everyone. So you're like, oh man, it's rough for everyone involved. By the way, it wasn't a cakewalk because he looked like he might cry. Scummy, man. I didn't have an opportunity to make closing arguments, so I'll end this point with a few final thoughts. Legal issues and arguments aside, my personal view is both Clayton and Laura need to learn from this. Move on and become better people. Both of them. Wait, you're the one that says that they're going to sue over and over. So what the fuck? Now it's everybody's going to move on and do their own thing and live in a wish-you-well and become friends and kumbaya off into the sunset. What's up? So they all just need to move along and pack their bags. You were talking about making Dave Neal destitute, putting his family out on the street. You were talking about ruining a man that she sent faked items to. But you're going to sue him for calling her a liar? She lied to him. Specifically, point blank, by the way. You admitted this in your blog. Great thing that you did here. You know, he just overtly admitted that Laura Owens sent faked medical records to Dave Neal. But again, he's going to sue, or she's going to sue, rather. They're going to again, take everything from him because he thought that she was a liar. Fascinating, isn't it? Bad Slate, thanks for the 20 there. Laura Owens also stated she was 133 pounds at the time of pregnancy picture and 91 pounds currently. Most women don't gain 40 pounds at that trimester in pregnancy. It's typically gained by the time you deliver. I just thought the argument of weight is a fascinating one, considering I'm curious if there's anything in her. Is she taking anything to lose weight? I mean, she does not look healthy, and I mean that from the. I'm not making fun of her look there. That's actually disconcerting. If you get to the point where you're mannequin thin, that's an issue. You know, that is a real issue. It does not look healthy in any way, shape, or form. But both of them made mistakes. Both of them, they made mistakes. Both of them did things they shouldn't have. Both of them need to remember to err as human, to forgive as divine. Man, fuck forgiveness in this. Maybe that doesn't go with your spiritual beliefs or anything else. But man, if somebody tries to wreck my life, I don't feel very forgiving. You know? Like, why should he? Like, this isn't a person that, you know, it's also this false narrative of she tested, he didn't want to communicate, therefore she had to go in and she had to bring litigate. Like, that, what a bunch of garbage. You've seen the other messages to other people. You've seen what happens behind everything. It's awful. So kids, stop fighting. You don't have to kiss and make up. But Jesus, can't you let this go? And that's mostly a question for Clayton, since Laura tried to let this go 6 months ago. That's disgusting, by the way. Again, a plea for him not to sue. Not to get sanctions and more. Don't go after that. Just let it go, man. Forgive. Walk away. This is from the same guy, again, that is threatened to go after everyone that does not back Laura. Clayton and Laura are still young. Laura, like any woman would, wants to have a family. She wants to be loved. She wants to be happy. I'm sure Clayton does too. That doesn't have anything to do with this. Again, I personally think if you look at the claims in this, a person would have to be mentally unwell. Here's the issue, though. That doesn't factor into whether or not she did wrong in this case. It doesn't factor into if she wants a family. Where did she go to that point? I mean, it's insanity, like I say. It's absolute insanity. Heather, thanks for the 2 there. I think the drastic weight loss was on purpose. It seems like, again, it's so crazy to look at. You know, all of it seems so intentional. I try, and when I look at stuff, to be objective. And I try not to speculate on certain things. But it's very difficult to. Something like this, when you see all of this stuff put together, and it all does look like one giant crazy plan, doesn't it? And we outsiders should not be focused on how to destroy either of them. We should focus on how we can help lift them both up, guiding them to be better people. No person is beyond salvation. Don't care what they did yesterday. The question is, what will they do tomorrow? Again, this is the guy representing her. This sounds to me like a guy who expects to lose. He knows that his client has been exposed with something horrendous. You know who her biggest detractors are? I was trying to think of another word, but I think detractors work. You know who her biggest detractors are? Women. And people like this will write it off as, oh, Clayton, look at him. He's just a tall drink of water. And he is, by the way. My God, dude. He he's a pretty boy. You know, I'm not attracted to men, but if I were attracted to men, that man is a pretty guy. I can admit that. He's like, I'm like, damn, he won the genetic lottery. You know, I mean, he's a nice looking guy in that. When you look at this, I mean, that guy's going to have a future. Because people saw through it. The biggest detractors, like I say, are women. And women get that thrown at them. And women are like, you know, I've seen so many women talk about the horrible stuff they've been through in their own lives. What drew them to that, and some initially believing Laura, even because of... That's one of the lessons. If you take any lesson from this, it's that this is why Reddit gets so mad at people like myself. They don't like people like myself because I say, listen and believe is trash. Listen and believe is meant to enslave you. And it is. Listen and believe everything I say. That is not justice. And people will take what's happened to you and they will use it just like people use military, you know, and they falsify because they see cloud in it. Your tragedy becomes another person's cloud. It's terrible. At the end of the day, as everyone knows, I am seriously imperfect person. All sorts of mistakes, many of which were way worse than anything Laura Clayton did here. So, even him, he's admitted, like, can you imagine, you've seen him on display. Can you imagine what it took to make him admit that? I think they may be looking at, again, there could be the potential for serious complaints levied against him. I mean, like I said, he's threatened opposing counsel. He's made threats about lawsuits and everything else at everyone. In this, he's saying we need to forgive and forget and walk off, while he's taking nasty shots at the two opposing counsel there. That's not typical. But I learned from my mistakes, he says. I owned them, and I still own them. Would you tell me, by the way, Gingrich, since you love writing blogs, this is directly to you, and clip this for him. I'd like an explanation of what mistakes that you've owned. Could you tell us what mistakes you have actually owned in this? What did you mess up on? Because all I've seen through this is doubling and tripling down. Again, threats, pointing the fingers at others. In this, though, you're saying everyone messed up, including Laura, but especially you. So what are you taking ownership for? Like, be concise, please. Be very concise. Yeah. Again, you like to write lengthy blogs on the subject matter. Write us a blog. Tell us how you screwed up. That would be an interesting discussion. But he's grown and moved on. Proud of that. He moved on too. Do you get that feeling that Mr. Blogger has moved on? No. One of the most powerful things any human could do is to accept your own flaws. Don't fear them. Use them. Use your mistakes as a ladder you can climb up, not as an anchor that defines you and ties you to your past mistakes. Yeah, here's the problem with Laura. Laura doesn't admit to making mistakes. She admits to items of inconvenience, like when she was caught in specific narratives. She admits to those, but she does not admit to any wrongdoing. She was actually given the best out in this case that anyone could have been provided. She was told, just admit that you lied, go get help, and everything will fall. Everything will drop by the wayside. All this is just, I'm sure, pay for some attorney fees, like get this stuff settled and move on with your life. Sure, it would be a public, like an black eye. But just move on. Clayton offered that. That would have been owning up to your mistakes. Instead, again, look at the Planned Parenthood thing. How many versions of the Planned Parenthood story have we had? I was stunned when she decided to change that narrative on the stand. I was stunned by that. I've seen some craziness play out. I'm sure you all have too, but I've never seen anyone do this to this. Well, I can't say that. Actually, I take that back. I have seen some pretty big liars on the stand, but I've never seen somebody so competent in changing stories that they just continually morph them. Anytime they're cornered, the unexplainable on their side, the very explainable, if you're looking at it from an outside point, that things were lies, the unexplainable are never owned. But make a mistake, own it. Get up, dust yourself off, and apologize and mean it. Then move on and don't do it again. That's a fascinating thing, too, considering the allegations against Laura. This isn't a one-time offense. Remember, the allegations, they involve, and it's not just an allegation of faked pregnancy. This is the thing that people need to really hammer home in their minds. In order to secure this, we had a protective order. Now, why did Clayton Echard have a protective order granted against him? Because she decided to make connection to the media. She decided that she would put this narrative, pictures out, everything else. He gets test results that say little to no fetal DNA, and he celebrates it. He's like, yes, I'm not the father. You know, again, paraphrasing that. But he's excited about it. He's like, fuck yeah, because he had this expectation of moving on. Instead of moving on, right there, instead of her being like, yeah, this is over because, you know, nah, she wants it done again. She wants to put him through the ringer, and she wants to silence him. She takes him before the court, puts him under a protective order. And again, the way that she did that was to lie and say that nobody had access to pictures that were put out there, that he had to be running all these multiple accounts, while she, I mean, if you look at all the evidence, it looks very much like she was running multiple accounts. So when we're talking about repeat, you have, again, multiple guys that are saying this was done to me. And on top of that, you have all that. So the don't do it again thing, that sounds like good advice for your client. But it's too late. Like when we get to this point, the move on, don't do anything else, that's terrible advice. Because again, the damage is done. And you're telling the victims in a case, you're telling this victim and other victims that they need to move on. They have to. After they've been threatened, dragged through the mud. Again, Clayton was accused of the worst thing that you be accused of these days. Like I've said before, in prison hierarchy, monsters, absolute human filth, look down upon people, men that commit ARP or sexually related crimes. That's just mental. Once this case is finally closed, the debate about whether justice was served will always linger. A court can rule that Laura was never pregnant, just like a court can say O.J. Simpson didn't murder his wife. So now a decision against her would be like the O.J. Simpson. So she's like Kate Middleton. This is like an episode of Black Mirror. And if something goes against Laura Owens, it's injustice to O.J. Simpson levels. Are you kidding me? Like, to me, that's absolutely insane. Especially, all the O.J. Simpson stuff, it came back up after O.J. passed. And I was curious, so I went back and refreshed myself on a little bit of what he had written. I have a copy of If I Did It. And I had not read that in a long time. So I decided I'd go back and look at it. And, if you're going to draw the comparisons, I would actually say OJ doubling and tripling down would be more comparative to somebody like his client, in my opinion. But he doesn't like that comparison. He's the one who drew that parallel, though. So, it's such a mess. Emma, thanks for the do. Can this judge get rid of the other man's order of protection? No. But what can happen with this? Okay, so say the order of protection, if this case does not go Laura's way, especially if the order of protection is vacated, that is a serious problem for Laura. Because what can happen? And Gingras and they have to know that this is a possibility. He can go in, like Mike there, or Greg, they could go in and they can challenge orders of protection. They can bring up anything that's happened in the past. And they can also take her to civil court. See, she's opened up for civil liability. That's why, in my opinion, all of this stuff that you're seeing here about moving on and forgiving and forgetting, that's because of civil liability. Like, she faces very real consequences as far as that happening. Especially, Clayton will be a more difficult civil case. And the reason I say that is because, not because he had all of this happen. You have to put a dollar amount to damages. This is the way this works. Like Mike Maricini, I think if he, depending on how that all played out, he could probably put a dollar amount to his suffering. A lot easier. But with Clayton, first of all, being a public figure, and then, with that, he has a lot of opportunity and lost opportunity. Like, people won't pick me up, or a foundation doesn't. If it cost him money, and you can prove that, not damage to reputation, you can do that, and you can bring that in. But also, like I said, if you want actual monetary relief, you have to be able to put a dollar sign to it. And Clayton may well be able to do that, but it's going to be much more difficult for him than it would be for one of these other guys. Again, depending on how this plays out. But those other guys, they absolutely could have orders vacated. Again, here's one of the problems you run into as well. Courts don't like to say, I made a mistake. I mean, you look at people that are falsely accused of horrendous crimes and DNA evidence that comes into that. Look at what they have to go through in order to have a decision vacated. And that's with, again, DNA evidence. That's not with speculative BS. The court's messed up big time. With Mike Maricini, I mean, Laura's own words disturbed me in that case. Again, just to say, according to him, he breaks up, blocks her out of everything. But his sister lives in the same area that she does. So, when he's going to places, when he joins like a gym or anything, they're close to his sister. Like, that makes sense, right? Well, Laura's angle was, he's stalking me. She finds out that he's dating another woman, or he's around another woman. I don't actually know if he's dating, but that's the way that it sounds like she perceives this, is what I mean. she ends up finding him on social media, writing the message about how he's this horrible monster on social media. And that is a breaking point for Mike Mancini. He contacts the police. He is the victim. He's saying, hey, this woman is stalking me. According to Laura Owens, when the police get there, they don't talk to her about stalking. They talk to her about the claims that she made. And I would say that that's probably what happened, considering how this plays out in court. She then contacts the police to get a restraining order against him. The guy who's saying, hey, I'm being stalked. He should have been given the opportunity there. He should have been given that consideration. And I will say this. If the situation were reversed and we were talking about a female that was saying an ex is stalking me, well, look how it played. Hey, this person is stalking me. He didn't make all these crazy claims about her. I mean, ultimately, she made a bunch of claims that in the bedroom, that during sexual activity, he was choking her, that he was smacking her butt, and then he put a pillow over her head while they were having sex, and that she blacked out. That was her claim after the fact. And it was so bizarre to see how all of that thread came into a protective order against him. Again, if you were to reverse that, I don't think it would have played that way. But that court decided that he was an aggressor. Her own words, though, tell you. Again, I'm basing what I just said not off of his words. I'm basing off of her words, her statement that she gave. It's so cracked. But courts are funny like that. Everyone in the legal system tries their best to find the truth. Well, most of us. Again, he's going after the lawyers yet again. He's saying, he's a good guy at the end of the day. He owns all of his mistakes. He's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to forgive and forget and move on. And yet this whole thing, the beginning is loaded with statements about opposing counsel. The end there, that is a follow-up statement. Because, again, he told you, specific lawyers. And in the end, he says, sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail. But we always keep trying. Always, baby. We always keep trying. What a bunch of... Like, doesn't this stuff... Don't cases like this make you mad? I mean, really. And I want to bring up a point here. This is not an ugly statement toward anyone. It's just it's following up something. It's an observation. This is the way you and I perceive it versus the way a person like a Clayton Echard would perceive this stuff. When people went to the trial and everything else, everyone gets together, and they described it as a party-like event. That's how many people did there. You're getting to meet people. It's great. It's a good feeling to meet people that you've had anonymous talks with or whatever. But for Clayton, it's not a party. And again, that's not an indictment of anyone. It's just you and I can't truly imagine this because we don't live it. We haven't lived this. We haven't dealt with the real consequence. And that's just for a lot of us just focus on the twinspiracy. It doesn't even register oftentimes with so much crazy that he had a protective order granted against him. Not brought, but granted against him. That he was forced to in this. He thought he would be able to go into this. He would be able to do it without counsel. Because the truth will win out. And he found out very quickly that's not how it worked. You know, it's like it's kind of like people who talk to cops. You know, even if you have the truth on your side, you know, you get like falsely accused or arrested. I mean, how many times have you seen where a person goes into a court, into the police officer rather, and they talk to police officers and they end up accused of something horrendous, and they weren't the person who did it. There was a trial. I'm sorry, a settlement recently, a big one, where this guy had police convince him that not only was his father dead, but that he was the one that ended his father's life. He breaks down in the police office. I mean, you know, of course, it's horrible. He breaks down. They break him. It turns out that his father was still alive. He went in, you know, with the truth on his side. He thought that would be enough. And many people, like I said, do that. Like with Clayton in that protective order, just sitting there, you know, he brought in his evidence. And I thought he actually did a very good job of trying to make his point. But the judge had no idea about technology. Like, luckily, we have a different judge here. We also have a female judge, a judge that has kids, so they understand a lot more of this. But that judge infamously said, I will take Laura Owens' word on this. I'll take her word on everything that happened. He was willing to not look at what was being stated about, hey, look at this sonogram in this YouTube video and how they're exactly the same. He wouldn't look at that, but he would take Laura Owens' word on being pregnant. It's terrible. I don't even know if having a lawyer would have helped. Maybe it would have. I honestly, I think that Clayton was in a no-win situation. In fact, here's the really scary thing about this. To any of you out there, Laura wasn't a very good liar. She was caught in multiple lies. She, in fact, you know, she had a trail of people behind her. It had worked before. She had been an effective liar, according to all of the allegations. She had been a very effective practice liar, but she was not a good liar. Anyone that had money and the opportunity to pull at those threads, they could take them apart. Unfortunately, even if you could, she was very confident that she could drop this because this was a paternity matter. Not pregnant, therefore it goes away, right? What about the people that are skilled at this? You know, there are YouTube channels all over the place of people that, there's a guy I'm going to recommend you check out. If you want to see an experienced con person, not in this, but just an experience that did get caught, but they were a good practiced liar. Guy Matthew Cox, he has a YouTube channel. He went to jail over, it's a different kind of fraud, real estate fraud, stole a lot of money, you know, was a practice liar, invented people out of thin air. He was pretty good at it. He eventually got caught, but it was because of how flagrant he was doing there. Think about the people who don't get caught, the people that are really good at it. Like I said, that's the scariest thing in this. Law needs to change. It shouldn't take hundreds of thousands of dollars. It shouldn't cost you six figures just to go in and solve a matter. Like, honestly, it shouldn't cost that kind of money in any kind of litigation. It's insane what litigation costs too. Like the amount that any kind of lawsuit that you get into, anything whatsoever, is going to cost a ton of money. That's one of the things, like with Dave Neal. I think Dave Neal was very truthful in the fact that he doesn't, you know, he would benefit as far as a YouTube channel and more if lawsuits did come. But Dave doesn't want that. He doesn't want it for the stress that it puts on his family. But he also, I mean, the amount of money there. And I know people have his back, but you know, it's a scary place to be when you don't know. You don't know if you'll have enough money to do that, enough money to cover it. But anyway. Here's a question for you as the chat. Did anyone out there, after seeing this trial play out, do any of you, I'm going to ask this as a 1 or 2 question. If you believe Laura Owens after seeing that, give me a 1. If you find that you didn't, or you believe Clayton Echard after this, give me a 2. I'm curious if there really are any 1s out there. I would like to know that. I'd like to know if there are people that... I'm curious if there is, because I would love to see. I mean, in most cases, they end up with somebody out there that believes this person. You know, most cases are divisive. You know, we're talking about people, we're talking about craziness out there. Again, it's divisive. And you also, you know, you get into people talking about redemption and more. You know, the outcome people want. That's also divisive. But in this, I haven't run across anyone that believes Laura Owens. I've seen people try to play the devil's advocate in this. Even, you know, I want you to understand something too. Do you realize, like for me, like I said, I'm in mental health. Do you realize how bad things have to be in life, in false accusation claims these days, where you have advocates for people that come out and say this is a real problem? Like, again, we can't do this anymore. We can show empathy to anyone that says that they are a victim of something horrible. But we can't just blindly listen and believe people. Do you realize, like, how bad things have to be? Again, we're not talking about, you know, when your bad guys out there are lawyers and mental health practitioners and doctors. You know, and like I said, other cases are usually divisive, or claims are divisive. Russell Brand, for example, is a great example of that. You know, when that came up, it was divisive. A lot of people were like, you know, oftentimes or Trevor Bauer is another example. You know, people look at that person and their character. Like Clayton Echard has impeccable character as far as when he speaks, and he's been an open book. Like he said on the stand, and I thought this was a great statement, he's not someone that's going to deny having relations with women. Like he publicly, you know, as far as The Bachelor, like he talked about his trysts with women. And he's talked about how the reason why he's done stuff like that. You know, self-esteem and other issues that lead even a man that looks like him. First of all, to look like him, you know, to work out, to perfect yourself, to be a star athlete, and more, and to have relations. You know, you're trying to fill a void or a hole in yourself. But as far as Echard, he may have extracurriculars that you're like, whoa, man, you know, that's probably not smart life choices. But as far as the guy himself, when people listen to him, they find him very believable. And part of that is because of Laura Owens. Laura Owens was so... she was so unbelievable. Typically, you don't run into that. You know, I saw from the Amber Heard trial, people shop this idea, and I'm surprised I haven't heard this yet from Laura Owens. There is no perfect victim. You notice that doesn't run both ways. You notice, like for a Clayton Echard, you don't have that stated. You don't actually have him called a victim. as a male especially, that word, it carries stigma. It shouldn't, but it does. I don't know. It's just like I said, it's usually so divisive, though. You have people, again, in any of these trials, but in this one, I wonder if it would have gotten more coverage, it would have louder. If it would have gotten louder, you would have probably picked up a fringe element that would have backed her no matter what. Because there are people that'll hate you because you're a man or you're a woman but whatever. So you have to be wrong because, and there are also people that will just believe because they believe anything. But even with that, I think that would have been a small fringe element compared. You also, depending on who talks about it, there are people out there that unfortunately will believe somebody because someone like myself or a Megan Fox talk about this issue. They'll be like, oh my God, they're talking about it, therefore. But the reality of this is that when you look at it, like, look at all the different, what I'm really proud of in these instances is you have so many different people from so many different walks of life that come together. They look at this stuff. They set aside any division. Maybe they don't at first, but later on they set aside any division and they move forward with a goal. Any political or assumed political division or social division, they set that aside. And I wish as we move forward, I hope, I'm going to end my live stream in just a second, but I hope that people will carry that forward because it doesn't end. See, there's a problem in law. There's a problem when this is allowed to happen. People, we don't know what will happen to Laura, but if she faces any legal consequences, I'll be surprised. I will be shocked, in fact, that she'll face any kind of true consequence. If she does, it'll be a slap on the wrist. She always has the out of mental health. She's unwell, therefore. That has to change. The laws have to change. It should not cost you this amount of money. You should not be ruined right away because you have to remember, like, you think about how coverage came up with this. Remember, it was covered from her side, and then places like The Sun, they temporarily covered what Clayton Echard said, but then they withdrew their statements. Like, that's nuts, isn't it? It's so crazy. What's up, Ron? Thanks for the 10. ThatUmbrellaGuy, congratulations on approaching 400K. Great job. Thank you. I could, here's the funny thing. I could actually have 400,000 subscribers really easily. See, the people that don't have that, like a Megan or like channel size, it's because you stick with cases. If we just covered whatever is relevant in the moment and never talked about it afterward, if we just one and done stuff and just gunned through it and picked up everything that happens in the day, you would grow, and you continue to grow. But you do that at the cost of forgetting that the whole point, some people just cover trials or whatever, they enjoy that. But I think there's a bigger element in this too. Anyway, there's 2 more super chats and then I'm going to be done. Heather, thanks for the 2. He needs to switch careers to fiction novelist. Indeed. Alternate history, right? And Tracy, thanks for 5. Look at Nate the lawyer. He did a video of a false accuser today. That's cool. I'll have to check his out. Yeah. I think there's a real problem out there. Look at the offenders we're seeing, too. We're seeing more and more. Today, we just found out that there were 2 more school teachers that have been removed. Female school teachers, because they wanted to have... There was 2 teachers that tried to set up a 4-way with students. They approached... 2 female teachers approached a male student and asked if they could bring in a friend, too. Like, we have some problems out there. And we're just getting to the point where we'll even admit societally that these problems, they go both ways. And again, that's not negating anything for women that go through horrible things. It's saying that everyone can. Anyone. We need to look at individuals in this. And maybe we need to show a little. And it's difficult in some situations. Like, you want me to tell you a really divisive one right now? A very divisive one, and I've thought about covering this, but I don't even know how I'd want to cover this. Kevin Spacey, not comparing Clayton, by the way, but when you look at that, like, Kevin Spacey's now trying to do a redemption arc. And it's like, he went in courts. Was that a mistake? What about other witnesses that let's say expired? What about the he was talking on what was it, Piers Morgan? He was talking about his flights to a certain island and how those don't really matter because. So I mean, there's some out there. There's other ones that are divisive, like Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf, you have a lot of defenders of Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf went on a live stream and talked about how he did do some of the things that he's accused of. He absolutely did it. But, so I mean, again, when looking at this, I realize, like, every case is, there are flaws in cases. Like, I don't know a perfect answer for this stuff, but I know we have a problem. I know we also need to get to the point where we can call out the real monsters out there. And maybe we can focus on some real issues instead of focusing on people who are liars or who are doing, it used to be we could separate the ones doing damage control. We knew. And we still kind of know. But anyway, I'm going to end here, though. I think tomorrow, Megan should be here. She's supposed to be back. I talked to her. I think she's going to be lined up for tomorrow. So we'll discuss. And I'm considering this. I have not sat down and talked to anyone about doing this, but I'm really considering, what do you think about this? I'm considering getting together a bunch of, like, random folks, especially, like, maybe some lawyers or some other folks, and just paneling them on what they thought about what happened. I'd like to have, like, Jeff on a live stream. And other people as well. There's a bunch of others that come into mind, but I don't want to throw them out there until I say something about it. But what do you think about that? I thought that might be interesting. And it might also, we're talking about subscriber size, maybe it would lead more eyes back to some channels out there that are worth seeing. Just a thought on that. But anyway, let's song this out. Let me find one real fast. I think I want this one. All right, let's do this, and then we're done.
Stomping the floppy shoes so hard, it'll leak the class delirious. You praying to stop so much, it's like you're having a religious experience. Despite all of your denials, I know that you know me. And your crew asked your girl the last time she phoned me. Allegedly, just admit that even now you sing along. And even after I wreck you, you gotta bump my song. You should copyright loser because the dictionary cloned you. Crushed so hard, now my cleats own you. It's that umbrella guy, clutching the verbal hammer, locking you down in this inescapable syllable slammer. You wanna step up and try to oppose me? Yeah, you should ask anyone that really knows me. I'll take your bling, your girl, your dog, and move in your home, only to get out the verbal flamethrower and consume your plastic gnomes. You drift, you whip, you ride, your bride consumed by this mic hitter, just to drop them on the market to the highest bidder. It's that umbrella guy, live from the hat rack, with elbows that hit so hard you'll think it's a nuclear impact. I mean respecting you, please, that's the word you'll never earn. Yet another lesson you clowns have never learned. Along with standing tall and pride and repping values that you feel, and not fake morals you found inside your Happy Meal. I listen to you with your speaking spell education, wondering criminal, dropping hammers so hard, they're subliminal. Unconsciously you want me to own you, as the parasol Pope is set to dethrone